That is the America that Donald Trump wants. But that America is gone. There's only so much we can grow in terms of like how fast this sort of like developed economy can grow.
The US is right now in that phase.
Sure.
Do you think the US is on the rise or fall? Amy Chua, in her book, we were talking a bit before we started, The Tiger Mum, she has this idea that great superpowers will start to fall when there is a rising level of dysfunction between, or different groups become more and more divided.
Sure.
She said that the US is right now in that phase.
Sure.
Do you think the US is on the rise or fall?
I'm going to be honest. I think like the US is in relative decline. It's in an absolute term, it's still rising. But in relative terms, I mean, it's just hard to ignore like how many people China has, like how quickly its economy has grown. The American economy is still very dynamic. We've grown a lot compared to Europe, where you're from, or Britain, since the financial crisis. But still, there's only so much we can grow in terms of like how fast this sort of like developed economy can grow. So I think in relative terms, we are in decline, but in absolute terms, we're still growing. We're still richer than we were a generation ago, or than we were 10 years ago. So that's what I would look at it two ways. I could say Greater America. I think Greater America is potentially still rising.
When you talk about Great America, what are you referring to?
Our broader cultural, economic, social hegemony. So I was in the studio with my friend Ed West, who I don't know if you know, British commentator. Yeah. And Ed was talking about how in Britain, it's like, you guys follow our politics, you guys follow our culture, and you can't really escape just the American scene. You're part of the American scene, the colonies, so to speak. I'm not a big Spengler fan, but, from a Spenglerian perspective, reactionary movements emerge in dying civilizations. And in that model, declining civilizations have reactionary movements that are looking back to the past to try to recreate a golden past that they had. So the Roman Empire, it would be like end of Rome. They're looking back to Marcus Aurelius, the good emperors, the Antonine Age, the Augustan Age, these sorts of things. And I think with Europe, the reactionary movements are more, they're more defined by, I think, what's called involution, like looking inward, kind of like contracting. So obviously, the Alternative for Deutschland, for example, in Germany, or the Reform Party in Britain, or the National Front, they're not proposing big missions. They're not proposing, obviously, military, endeavors, but they're not proposing going to Mars either. Their goal is just to have the status quo and also like a reversion back to what they had a generation ago, right? And that's literally reactionary. It's like attempt to roll back is what they're trying to do. They're not trying to create a new vision for Europe, because there is no new vision for Europe.
So what I'm hearing from you is that what Trump MAGA is doing is more visionary, it's more forward-looking than any of the right-wing parties in the UK, in Europe.
That's grading on a very, very low curve.
Okay.
I'm going to be honest. I don't think MAGA is very visionary itself. It's called Make America Great Again, not Make America Great in a different way. So Elon Musk is visionary, okay, in a way that Donald Trump is not. Elon Musk has a vision of humanity in the future, where Donald Trump, he liked the America that he grew up in. He's born in 1946. He grew up in post-war America. He liked that America. That's the America that's still in his mind. When you hear him talk, the America of like 1950 to about 1990, that is his America. I think there was a little bump in the 1970s, with stagflation and other things. But that America, the post-war baby boom America, and then it's resurgent after the 70s in the 1980s, that is the America that Donald Trump wants. But that America is gone. It's demographically gone. It's technologically gone. It's culturally gone. It's spiritually gone. Like, we're much more secular country than when I was growing up in this country in the 1980s and 1990s. Not like Europe, but like we're much more secular. It's clear when you talk to people.
Yeah, no, I get it. Like, the American footprint is just absolutely everywhere. When I think about the US, I think as a Brit, we always talk about this. It's so exciting being here. The level of abundance, the opportunity, just the attitude. You don't fall victim to this tall poppy syndrome or this kind of scarcity that you just feel whenever you're in the UK. I think that's the biggest difference.
Okay, if you're a really, really smart engineer in India or Malaysia or wherever, software guy, and you want to go somewhere, where would you go?
It's a good question. I think it varies. It changes. Maybe in the early 2000s, London was right up there.
London is the exception because it was the financial center of the world, right? In terms of, we're talking like overall, yes, London, that's a fair point. And your GDP per capita was actually equal back then, you know? It definitely is not now.
Yeah.
But if you want to be the next, like, if you want to like be the CTO or CEO or the next founder, where would you go?
You are going, I think 80%, 90% would go to specifically the Bay.
Yes.
And then maybe 10% to New York.
New York, Boston, maybe
1 or
if a
2%
biotech.
London, and then but it's still the Bay. Like there's no doubt about it. The Bay, it's because, you know, I did an interview on Sand Hill Road literally a few weeks ago, and I don't know how much of the global VC capital has come from just that one street.
Oh yeah, it's incredible. Yeah. Like orders of magnitude bigger than I think it's like 20 times bigger than Austin. And Austin's not tiny, but you know, the Bay is just crazy. So yeah, the agglomeration effect, we have San Francisco, but we have San Francisco for a reason. We have California for a reason. And you know, I think it's one of these things where winner take all dynamics are kicking in partly. But you know, yeah, it's winner take all dynamics. And I mean, there are people like, you know, UK obviously has a great university, Oxford, Cambridge, you know, Imperial University College. It actually has, you guys have like good universities, but again, like, so, you know, do you know who Ruxandra Teslo is? No. She's like a Cambridge PhD, and like, you know, she was basically, and I know her kind of as casual acquaintance, but she's been writing for Works for Progress and other things. And basically, she's like, okay, I just have to move to the United States. Because every time she comes to the United States, she's just like, okay, she's Romanian, you know, and I used to talk to her like 2 or 3 years ago. We don't talk so much anymore. It's like, you know, no bad blood. It's just we just don't talk as much. And, you know, she was like, maybe her and her boyfriend would stay in England, but it's quite clear reading her stuff now, she's not going to stay in England because she's, you know, she wants to make her bag. Yeah. She wants to make an impact, and it's just way easier in the United States. So now she's just like trying to figure out like, okay, you know, is like, you know, she's from Romania. Is that a shithole country? You know what I'm trying to say? There's other issues with immigration now compared to there wouldn't have been before the Trump era, right?
Yeah. I want to look into your crystal ball. What does 2030 look like to you?
2030. Okay. I do think that we're going to have a much more vigorous discussion in the United States about national bankruptcy, or the potential fiscal crisis in this country, as we're running into problems with Social Security, Medicare, and we're not addressing anything either with tax cuts or, you know, cutting, you know, in terms of like, is the American empire and the American, like, you know, expenditure regime sustainable? We're going to have like a big cultural discussion about that. I think we will probably be further along in the collapse of like many 20th century cultural institutions. So, for example, I think we are definitely seeing the end of movies, like movies in movie theaters. You know, younger generations do not have the attention span for it. The generation that came up reading Harry Potter, watching Harry Potter, these sort of like mid-millennials, are the last that are really into that. I know that Zoomers and definitely Gen Alpha don't like to do the 90-minute movie. That format is too long for them. But movies aren't really 60-minute things. That's TV show. And so we're going to see, you know, things like that transform. Also, I think that we'll also be early in the age of we will definitely sense the end of the age of driving cars. I think self-driving, like you're in Austin, you've been in SF, Waymos are everywhere. And I think we're at the really beginning of the exponential curve there. We will actually be kind of where I think when it comes to self-driving cars, we will be where the internet was in 1999. We'll be very hopeful and optimistic and see all the good things. So we'll start to see, oh, like kids aren't getting hit by cars anymore. And I think people will be like, oh, we got to all do this, you know? There will be bad things with self-driving that we cannot anticipate, you know, where, you know, people will be like, oh, like we don't like listen to the radio in the car anymore because like, we're all eating or working or just living our lives as we're moving in the car. You know, there's going to be things like that. People will be like, oh, yeah, like car used to be kind of an in-between space. Now it's just like, we're just like our regular life is just moving on wheels. That's what's going to end up happening, I think. So, yeah, I mean, those are some of the things that I would anticipate.
Thanks for watching this Beyond Tomorrow clip. If you haven't subscribed yet to our main channel, join us there for conversations that can help you thrive today and flourish tomorrow. We'll see you next time.